Hello, I'm Charlene SanJenko. I am the founder of Regen Impact Media, and I'm here with my friend Morna McGillivray from Revolutionary Women Global. And we're continuing on with a series of conversations that we have lovingly called Game On. And Game On is a warm-up series, meaning if this was preseason, if this was our preseason for fall, how might we be treating it? How might we be living and leading and looking at things differently? So this week's theme is called Chasing the Edge. And I'm going to pass to Morna in a moment, but I just want to introduce the concept of chasing the edge. I don't know if you know much about it, but in football, when you chase the edge, you actually stretch the field and you try to create some separation so that you can make a play. Now, when I think about that in life and in leadership, even in your lifestyle and how you're taking care of yourself, it means tangibly making space to be able to
Mm.
achieve next level, recognizing and facing where you might be stuck, where you might need a pivot, where you might need to look at things a bit differently, and then chasing that edge. So coming up this week, we're having this conversation, just giving you some context, leading into a full moon, leading into Lion's Portal, and it's just such a powerful, energetic time. And we really want to squeeze every bit of goodness and possibility out of this time. So thank you for joining me this morning, Morna.
Mm.
And I'm going to pass it to you around what if chasing this edge is actually the activation, the activator and the activation that we're looking for?
I love it, Sharon. And I think I do have to immediately say, as you're talking about Lions Portal, that I'm sitting here in Lions Bay underneath the two lions as we approach the Lions Portal. And I'm feeling the energy, and I felt it last night. I didn't sleep very well, which actually opens up another edge this morning because I'm a little fuzzy. I'm not quite on it. And that in itself, ironically, opens up an edge. It opens up a space where different things can occur. And I laughed when I saw the outline for this chat because I kind of feel like I've pretty much deliberately designed my life to live in that edge, to expand that edge. And I'm curious, before we dive more into the conversation, can you describe for folks watching and listening a bit more about what you mean by I think you said expanding the field was your football metaphor. What's actually happening in that moment? I'm curious. What's happening in that moment when we're chasing the edge?
Yeah, I think another way that I say it is magic always happens in the periphery.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so, I think when we can expand the field, where we literally sometimes get so stuck in this very
Mm,
kind of condensed, compressed, constricted um, experience of what we believe is our reality. And the other day I was taking a walk, which is where I tend to get my greatest downloads when I'm moving. And literally a guidance came through to me that was how you live your life is your reality. And I know that sounds so simple, but clearly it came through. How you live is your reality. And so when I talk about expanding the field or creating
oh,
magic at the periphery, it's that invitation to just sit in the middle and understand that, oh, how I live, how if I get up tomorrow and I believe that I'm a bodybuilder, I believe that I'm a $1 billion CEO, I believe that I am an iconic artist and storyteller and creative, and I live from that place,
Mm.
That is the reality. That is the perception or the reality that I'm walking into, that I'm embodying, that I'm having fun with, right?
I mean, now my brain switching on. Now I'm getting it. Like I think in my language, it's the concept of becoming the future. We have this idea that the future is something out there that we're working towards, and of course we're always working towards something, and we can also collapse the future into this moment. And it's interesting. I'm just getting visuals now that you gave that football metaphor at the beginning. I'm thinking about if I'm on the field. Okay, football doesn't work for me. Netball does, but probably nobody here in North America knows. If I make the same play over and over and over and over again, what am I missing? What other plays have I missed? What haven't I seen? If I'm thinking about your metaphor of walking down the street. How you walk down the street is how you walk down the street. But what if you walk on the other side that day? What then? And then you can look back at yourself on the other side. Okay, now we're getting super metaphysical.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, like because when I first saw this, my brain went, okay, are we talking about like chasing a high? And we're not talking about that, right? When we talk about chasing the edge, we're not chasing some kind of feeling or chasing some kind of moment. We're embodying a much more expansive way of being so that those moments can occur.
Mhm. Yeah, it
Is that
it
it?
really is. I'm gonna try to tie it into a couple of things that you said. Um, we have read the research. Many of us have read the research. I don't want to say we've all read the research that where we actually utilize a fraction of the potential that is available to us as
Hmm.
humans, whether that is through our brain, our subconscious. And so chasing the edge kind of ties into that. It's like if if we are living and experiencing a fraction of what is available to us, then it's only by chasing the edge that we can tend to push into and lean into more of what's available. I love how
Hmm.
you say living from the future that you want. I also think about that. It's like remember that the decisions that you make them today, but there is that there's a bit of a time lapse. They may not show up for 4 to 6 weeks. And so we have been brought up in such an instant
Yeah.
gratification,
Yeah.
environment, but I've watched, again, women, physical fitness was my training ground for manifestation and for life and leadership. So I would say to women, like, please, you've got to believe me. I've done this numerous times before. How you eat and drink and move today, it won't show up today. You might feel a little better. You might have a little more energy, but how you eat and drink and move today will likely show up in about 4 to 6 weeks. And so I'm just going to ask you to hold on. You're going to have to hold my belief for now. Um, but really, what's different? Really, what's different between that and being a founder, being a creative, being an artist, being a change maker? I could say to you, Morna, I know we're working on some pretty crazy, courageous stuff right now, but you know, I'm just going to believe you and you're going to believe me that we may not see our decisions today, the plays we make today, we might not see them for another 4 to 6 weeks. We might not see them for another 4 to 6 months, but we're just going to stay the course. We're going to keep expanding. We're going to keep chasing that edge and just letting it show up. I don't know where that takes
100%.
you, but yeah.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I started to see, Okay, I'm laughing because I'm gonna go into crazy town, crazyville. Like I started to see the infinite game as you were speaking, and I was also reminded of the fact that um there are so many things happening when we're chasing the edge, and so many other games becoming possible for other people, for other generations, for future generations. This trap that we get ourselves in as humans, the instant gratification trap, it's a huge trap. And I was internally laughing because, I'm definitely going through working on some body recomposition right now. And I know I'm in that moment where, our bodies, I think we forget that our bodies literally have to rearrange themselves to grow muscles. If you've been doing one thing over here and then you're like, now we're going to build muscles, your body doesn't instantly go, boom,
Yes.
here's the muscle. Like it's rearranging itself over a number of weeks to supply nutrients to that area, to do all of the things that the body needs to do to then have that muscle seemingly overnight then go boop. But it didn't grow overnight. It's the same as a seed. When you plant a little seed, it spends so much time underground doing all of its seedy things, and then one day by magic, boop, it hops out of the ground. But so much stuff has happened there. And I think this is why being in a team is so important, why being in community is so important, so that we can borrow each other's belief while we're moving towards these big things. And if you're moving any kind of big needle, if that's in your body or your mindset or your work in the world, and this happens over and over and over again in entrepreneurship and projects, there's so much work and momentum being created. And I can't think of a time where I didn't have a moment of going, "Ooh, is anything happening here?" But I forget that, yep, it's happening beneath the ground. It's that my body's doing its work, and then poof, it it happens. So, there's a lot of belief in chasing the edge. I think it's really important to cultivate skills for literally walking in the dark. And you can do this as a literal practice. Spend some time in the pitch black. Not right now, it's a full moon. You're not going to maybe find some darkness, but a literal practice of learning to trust. And if you do this, if you do walk in the dark, you actually have to lift your feet in a different way to be able to. You have to walk with more intention to make it through the dark. So there's something in that metaphor.
Yes.
Something
Yes.
in that metaphor for me. Yeah.
I'm curious, like you mentioned, we're coming up to a full moon in just a few days, and we're also coming up to the Lion's Portal. And I'm wondering if you can talk about the importance of creating space, creating space to allow that energy to really, to really have an impact in your life, and to not just like walk right through it like another day. Now, that might include one other concept that I want to introduce today, and that is the concept of pattern interrupts.
Mm.
And I think sometimes what happens is we go through these really powerful times, but yet we're not doing the necessary pattern interrupts or the pivots, or, to really harness what's available to us. So we keep looping back, where I think it's a bit of a dance, like a tag team. So what are the pattern interrupts
Mm.
that will really, are necessary, but also creating that space at this time? And just curious where that might take you.
It it takes me to a couple of places, and one is just noticing how our brains and bodies work. So we're not necessarily designed for pattern interruption, meaning our brains go looking for the evidence to confirm what we think we know. That's just how our brains work. So it's useful to know that so that we can pattern interrupt that. And there's an exercise that I've done quite a few times in kind of team settings, and you can do this yourself as well, because we literally have to train ourselves to be able to pattern interrupt. But I'll give a simple example first, and then maybe a more complex one. You're brushing your teeth. You always do it with your right hand. I mean, you always brush your teeth the same way. We do. Like you don't notice until you notice. But as soon as you notice, you'll see that you start in the same spot. You pretty much go through the same motions. Just do it with your other hand. That's a pattern interrupt, right there. But this is a great exercise, and maybe something you could do on the Lions portal is, and maybe you could be outside in nature or anywhere. So the first part is spend about 5 minutes noticing what you notice. You just walk around your environment, noticing what you're noticing. Then spend another 5 minutes noticing what you're attracted to. Then noticing what you're not attracted to. And then the fourth is kind of the most important, but you can't get there without the other steps. Notice what you don't notice. Now, how do you notice what you don't notice? That's a pattern interrupt right there. So setting up, you might set up in a different environment, really anything that can open space for something new, and then literally create space and see what happens. This was me last night in the bath because it finally rained here. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to get into a bath. 3 hours I was in that bath. Yeah, it was definitely a pattern interrupt. How about you?
Oh, amazing. Yeah, I love that. I think that for me, meeting new people, like purposely putting myself into a new conversation and being super open, new people that live in new places, new perspectives and environments. I always come to a conversation that's like, what can I learn today? What's the guidance that is going to come through in this conversation? Whether, it's such a gift, really a privilege to be able to speak to people from all over the world virtually, but even in your community, like saying hello to someone that you may not talk to every day, you may not know, or going to a different coffee shop or a different restaurant or trying something different on the menu. All of these things are just, again, just creating a little space, just chasing the edge. And when you do it in small, how you do it in small ways, you do it in big ways. So I
Mm,
think they just, yeah,
well, and I just want to draw a line. I know we're coming to the end shortly. I just want to draw a line under something really important that you said, which is just a fundamental stance that I think is useful for us all to adapt, is the difference between approaching any situation with a learner mindset versus a knowing mindset. And that is a stance. That's an intentional position to take, and it alters how you perceive what's happening. If you go into a situation knowing, you're going to miss so much possibility and potential,
yeah,
right?
curious
Yeah.
mind, curious mind. So the invitation for you, if you're watching this video, is to spend some time, create some time, carve out some time this powerful week to really get clear about what you're inviting in, where you want to be more curious. What are the opportunities that you're really looking to receive? Such a powerful time, but also to be have some honest reflection time, or where are you being invited to take a look? Where are the pattern interrupts? Um, where can you actually borrow some belief from those closest around you? And where can you give belief until you can see the possibility and feel it for yourself? Because that is the
Mm.
space, that is the gap, that's the invitation. And that's why these conversations exist, to kind of have us think more into how we're bridging to more belief in what is possible. That's the whole idea of the Game On warm-up series.
Yes. I
Thank you for
really want to
joining me
finish.
today.
Oh,
Yeah,
I want to finish by just really by declaring it overtly. If you're watching this and listening to this, we believe in you, and I especially believe in whatever cockamamie crazy scheme you've got going on in your brain, and I want to hear about it. So let us know.
absolutely. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.